Hey everyone, this is a review of Ryobi's P750 hybrid transfer pump. It runs off of their 18-volt 1+ batteries, and it also comes with an adapter so you can plug it into the wall. So I'm going to go over use cases for this thing, how it performs, what I like about it, and what I don't like about it. So to start off with, this pump is for transferring water. It's not for oil or gas or anything else like that. It's for hooking up a garden hose to it on one end and pumping water where you need to. So you can use it for a rain barrel, you can use it to get water out of a sump if your sump pump has failed, and pumping water anywhere you don't want to carry it basically. So here's everything included when you buy the pump. You get the pump, the inlet hose, the filter for the inlet hose right there. You get a power supply, which is a converter from 120 volts to 18 volts that plugs into the back next to where the battery goes. You do not get a battery with this, but you can run it off of wall power, and you can buy the 18-volt batteries separately. It also comes with an extra gasket and an extra impeller, as well as some oil so you can do your own pump maintenance. So the pump comes with a base plate that you can screw onto a wall if you're going to use it in one area a whole bunch, or just a mounting plate of some sort. And it's got 2 feet that slide in here and lock. There is a quick release tab, but you cannot get to it with your finger. You'll need a screwdriver or something to depress it. Also is a holder that the hose can clip into for this. So you can keep it, if you've got a hose full of water that you don't want to have running all over the floor, you can clip it up and have the hose with the water hanging below it so it doesn't all run out, which is actually a nice little touch. I do wish this had a handle on it because there's not really a good place to grab this pump. I just wish it had a top carry handle. That would have been a nice addition. So here's your on-off switch. It's covered with what looks to be a waterproof boot. It's a little bit hard to press on and off, but you're really not turning this thing on and off a whole bunch when you're using it. So you've got an inlet port right here and an outlet port. A standard garden hose connects to each of these. I am a little bit disappointed. These are both plastic. The problem with these is if you've got a brass hose that you're connecting and disconnecting from this a whole bunch, you can tear up these threads. And usually you're in a hurry when you're using a transfer pump, at least I was. And you can see I already messed up the threads a little bit, so I'm going to have to be more careful in the future so I don't completely destroy these. On the back over here, you have a battery cover. It is not completely enclosed though, so it is not waterproof. It's just kind of to help the battery not get splashed on. You can see there's not even a gasket around here. That would have been a nice touch. Usually if you've got this mounted, the battery's at the top, so it's farthest away from the water. But if it's just sitting here, your battery is just right there, and if you've got water coming up, you're going to have to keep this elevated and out of it so you don't get your batteries wet. The batteries remove, and you've got your port for the battery, and you can see the port for the AC adapter, and it's got a little quick release button here, so you just push it in, and you hear it click, and it's securely in there, and to remove it, you push that down and pull it back out. This is rated for 8.3 amps at 18 volts, which is actually quite a bit. It's not one of those tiny little wall warts. There's a big transformer in here. And you'll notice I was a little bit worried this might not fit the 9 amp hour battery. It does just barely, and it closes completely. And you do have pump run dry and overload protection on this, which will flash or pulse this LED. And if your impeller gets jammed, or if you suck all the water out of wherever you're pumping from and your pump is dry, it should shut this off to protect the pump. Now the 6-foot inlet hose that comes with this is reinforced, so it's not going to collapse, which is good because you don't want it to do that under suction. It's got brass hardware on this end with an anti-kink coil around it, and then on this side you've got a filter that you can sit down on the bottom of something, and it's got screws and feet here that keep it up off the very bottom, so it's not sucking against a solid surface and not doing anything, but it's got a mesh here that keeps big things like leaves and gunk and twigs from getting sucked up and jamming the impeller. As far as maintenance goes, I haven't had to replace anything in here yet. When you start the pump, and there's a nice little reminder here, before you use it each time, you put 2 drops of the 3-in-1 oil that it comes with in here, and then when you're done, you do that as well to lubricate the impeller. So if you want to do some maintenance and replace this impeller and the gasket for the pump head right here, all you need is a screwdriver and a pair of pliers, and you can replace the impeller, which is just rubber molded around a keyed collar. It looks like to be brass here, and this is just a rubber gasket. Now the thing I don't like about this maintenance-wise, these screws are, they kind of cut their own threads in the plastic, and this is just plastic all around here. So if you take this apart a whole bunch of times to service it, you're eventually going to strip these pieces of plastic out. And you can see I've already cross-threaded one of them when I took it apart and put it back in once. The gasket comes out just like that. This is a little bit oily. And then to get the impeller out, I found just grabbing it on either side with a pair of pliers works pretty well. It just slides right out that shaft. All right, so let's talk performance. This is rated for 325 gallons per hour. That's just a little bit more than 5 gallons a minute. And I did my own test to verify this. So I took a 5-gallon bucket, filled it with water, and used this to pump it out. It did it in 58 seconds, which comes right out about to 310 gallons per hour. This is rated for 15 feet of suction, and they only give you a lead-in hose of 6 feet. So that means you can put the pump 15 feet above whatever you're pumping from, and it should still be able to pull it in. And actually, they tell you this isn't a self-priming pump. You're supposed to fill the hose with water for the inlet before you get started, but I didn't have any problems pulling it probably like maybe 2 feet out of the sump pit into the inlet port. So it's self-priming for a short distance for the time I used it, but just know if you've got a longer distance between the pump and where you're actually pumping from, if it's down lower, you're going to have to prime the hose. Also, as far as performance goes, Ryobi specifies the head height at 50 feet. So that's from the surface level of the water you're pumping out to wherever you're pumping it to. You can't exceed 50 feet in vertical distance. Now, they don't say total head, so I don't think that includes friction losses. But if that's total head they're specifying, your actual vertical lift is going to be more like 38 to 39 feet due to friction loss in the hose. Also, when you're pumping that high, your flow rate is going to drop because the pump is having to work against a lot more vertical distance. All right, as far as use cases go for this thing, I bought this as a backup for my sump pump in case of emergencies. So if the power goes out or something, this can be run on battery power. And I was actually having a bunch of trouble with my new sump pit. When I moved into this house, the sump pump kept having weird random little problems. And with one of them, I didn't know if I could fix it in time for a rainstorm that was the next day, so I bought this as insurance. Turns out I got it fixed, but I decided to keep this anyway because, I mean, if the power goes out, it's got a battery backup. And if the sump pump breaks and I don't have anything else at the moment, I just need something right then, I can get a garden hose, run it out the window of my basement, and get some water out of my sump pit. Now, this is not a replacement for a sump pump because sump pumps will pump 10 times as much water as it does in the same amount of time, but this is absolutely better than nothing. I got to put this to the test a few weeks ago. I went to my in-laws' house because their basement was flooding. They were just overwhelmed with a huge rainstorm that dumped a ton of water on them all at once. Their sump pump could not keep up with the demand on it. The water was just pouring into the pit. I brought this thing over, started pumping out, just took a garden hose, ran it out the basement window, and started pumping out that way. It helped it enough. It helped the sump pump get things back under control. And at that point, we started sucking up water out of their carpet with a shop vac. And instead of having to lug 50 gallons of water that we pulled out of the carpet up the stairs through the rest of the house and sloshing that nasty, dirty water everywhere, we were able to actually pump it out of the shop vac using this thing and send it straight out the window like we did with the rest of the water. And that saved us so many trips up the stairs. That's like 300, 400 pounds of water that we would have had to carry up the stairs by hand, and this thing allowed us to pump it out with no problem. One more minor complaint I have about this thing is that it is insanely loud. We used it in a confined room the first time I turned it on, and we just had to use it, but it was uncomfortable to be in the same room with it. Price point on this thing is $108, and that comes with the power converter but no batteries. So I think it's a really great deal because you can run it without having to have any Ryobi batteries, and then you've got the cordless benefit if you're already in that platform, or Ryobi batteries are pretty cheap. You can usually get 2 for 99 bucks, and sometimes you get a free tool depending on the deal. So I think this is a great value for the utility that it offers. So that's all I had. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section down below, and once again, don't forget to subscribe.